Zero Foxtrot does not profess to share or promote the opinions and beliefs expressed by show host or guests. The Stay Zero podcast was created to provide a platform for servicemen and women to share their stories. Due to the nature of this podcast, sensitive topics will arise. Conversations about combat, PTSD, drug use, and other such subjects will occur. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Stay Zero podcast. My name is Zach. I'm your host. A little bit about me. I joined the Marine Corps in 2003 for one enlistment and one reason, to be a scout sniper. After that, I dabbled in fire and EMS, but it was time to rejoin my buddies overseas. 9 years of contracting came to an end in 2021 when I left the Colombian jungle with Naked and Afraid and found out that we had withdrawn from Afghanistan. Colombia took 30 pounds, but it showed me that it was time to reprioritize my life and get focused on my family and friends and a new purpose. That's brought me here today, talking to you for Zero Foxtrot, where we intend to tell the stories of the men and women who have sacrificed the most for this country and their communities. I hope that you enjoy this podcast. Thank you for listening, and stay zero. I have a good friend with me here today, Eric Morante. We served together in the Marine Corps around the 2005 era.
Yeah.
When did you join?
So I joined in 2003.
Okay, me too.
After high school. I think you and I both came in as peer, like junior Marines, boot Marines, whatever you were allowed to say, in the 2004 time frame when we got to 29 Palms.
Yeah.
I graduated high school 2003. Joined up after 9/11, obviously, and then I did boot camp from like July till October.
Yeah, I was just like a month before you.
Yeah.
And I got stuck in the guard. So I had to do like 3 weeks
security
of standing outside of
You were
those.
that guy.
Dude,
Yeah.
it sucked so bad.
I felt bad for him because every time we'd walk on limo for the weekend.
Bro, 8 hours on, 8 hours off, standing in like a 6x4 box outside of an armory.
Full gear, too.
With like an empty rifle.
Yeah.
Like it was fucking useless.
Yeah. I remember my cousin got stuck on something like that.
And that's
too.
probably how we linked up in SOI then, was
Yeah.
because I missed a month doing that, and then we came together, and then we went to the fleet together.
Yeah. Yeah, because I did my SOI training from, I think it was like October until like January. After the 10-day, like, go home after boot camp.
Okay.
Then, like, you go back. So I did SOI in Pendleton for, like, I guess the next 3 months, and then ended up in 29 Palms, like, January 14th of 2004. And then we ended up deploying, like, February.
Yeah, dude, it was cool.
Like, we got there just enough to get our gear and then get
Off
with
to the races.
we did one freaking pre-op,
March Air Force Base.
March Air Force Base. It was like a 4-day, 5-day thing.
Yep.
And then it's like, okay, this is what Iraq's going to be like. Totally was nothing like that at all.
My main memory of March Air Force Base was one of the boots lost his NVGs. And our team leader said, you know how much those are worth? And I don't even think he knew. And it was just like $7,000. You will all do an exercise for every dollar of those NVGs.
Yeah.
And so we had like 5 days to complete 7,000 of something.
Yeah.
And it was like push-ups and squats.
Oh, dude,
and
back
of
at
it.
that time for me, it was still like,
Oh, yeah, they could fuck
that
around.
was still the green light. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could still get away with all kinds of stuff.
They did. They did.
and-
What was some of the stuff that you remember? What did they do to you?
bro, water bowl IT'd. We would get like, and this was in country. Like,
Oh, really? During?
yeah, when we were at KV.
Oh, no shit.
We were at KV. We were still getting like.
Do you remember what Korean Village was originally called? Because it wasn't Korean Village when we first got there. I had a guy yesterday that was there. It was an LAR guy. But I don't remember what we called it before we switched it.
Not sure because it was only like 18 or 20 little like huts.
Yeah. It
That
was like
was
a
there.
weird neighborhood in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. I don't recall, but once we left there, that first deployment, dude, they made it like so big. That used to be like the outer edges of those buildings were our post.
Yeah.
Which was the camp.
Yeah.
Camp KV.
It was just
and then like
strip
8
of
months or
concertina.
was 6 months, 7 months later, like they pushed out like post like 2-3 miles on out of the
Oh,
outside
wow,
of
really?
that. They had a LZ that they started doing medevacs and things like that. So it got huge. That place turned into like a huge base.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's grown. It's grown drastically. I don't know if it's still up now, but we're talking several years. But just within that 7-month time frame, we were, like I said, we were standing post on, and we would get motored. Remember that at night? And everybody would just go to the roof. Yeah. Everybody would just go to the roof and be like, all right, general quarters. I'm like, well, where's it coming from? But we had miles and miles of just like...
Oh, yeah. You could see for probably 10 miles.
Oh,
just
easily.
Flat.
Every which
nothing.
way. Yeah. But it was crazy. It really was.
So first deployment, we went to Korean Village doing raids in and out of Aruba.
Yeah.
My platoon ended up
you were in 3rd, right?
I was in 3rd. We were at the Tribeel border, in the Jordanian border.
See, they pushed first out to the Syrian border.
Yep.
So we were
with
in
Gunny Mainville.
Yep. We at the time, he was Staff Sergeant Mainville, and Sergeant Clay.
Yep.
Back then was one of our squad leaders / platoon sergeant.
Yeah, that was a great gig on the border until our guys got in trouble for chasing dogs with a Humvee and flipped it.
Down at the Jordanian side?
They flipped a Humvee, and it ended on its side, and one of our friends was pinned underneath it until we could get another vehicle to come lift it and pull him out and then medevac everybody.
Damn.
And I remember we showed up, and the guys were messed up from getting flipped in that vehicle. And he was laying on the ground with a saw pointed at the highway because it was just lined with 18-wheelers stopped looking at him.
Wow.
It was like, I'm about to get on YouTube.
That's crazy. Yeah,
he was ready to shoot anybody that approached him. Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, we didn't have anything crazy like that happen at the Syrian border because, again, they fapped us out. So most of Fox Company was at KV, but they did shoot 3rd Platoon over to the Jordanian side, and then 1st Platoon was at the Syrian border, and we were at Al Walid, which was the border town that was there. So we did a lot of stuff with like customs, Iraqi customs, Iraqi police at the time. But the only like real big altercation that we ended up getting into was that we caught a bunch of like freedom fighters trying to cross and smuggle their way into the border, and a lot of that stuff was being trafficked through the Iraqi army, man. So like it was a crazy situation, and it was only one platoon. So at the time, I think we only had like one up armor vehicle, like a Humvee, and then everything else was high backs, and I think we had like one 7-ton. Yeah. And the 7-ton, because we used 2 of those vehicles to go to the Syrian border. Well, something happened that they were catching like smugglers on the backside of our post there, that they took the 7-ton to go try to chase these guys down in the middle of the desert. And the freaking 7-ton driver like hit a wadi, and the whole 7-ton just dropped, I don't know, maybe like 8 to 10 feet, but it rocked everybody I bet. That were in the back of it. So when we got done with our post at the border and we came back to the FOB, dude, everybody was in the BAH like getting patched up, and we're like, what the hell happened over here? They got into a huge car wreck because they fell in a wadi, and like everybody got rocked, man. I mean, like it was nuts.
It was so just blind leading the blind. Like, what do you want to do today?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Totally different from March Air Force Base, like pre-op.
Oh, yeah. I don't know that prepared us for anything but getting more used to life sucking.
Yeah.
And then, so we got pulled back and we were just on a rotation of security on KV and then raids in Aruba. Yeah. Did you go to Aruba much?
So after the Ripper sweep, because remember they
Operation Just Kidding?
Yeah, that's it. The Operation Just Kidding, man. That was
what a mess.
The Ripper Sweep, I think that's what it was called.
Yep.
They took over Fallujah again. This was in 2004, so they called our company to like basically become like expeditionary and just on the fly. So we had to shut down Al Walid, and I think they shut down the Jordanian side. We all linked up. Some of us like convoyed out there, and some of the guys got like heloed out there. And then we got dropped into Fallujah to do this 2-week like excursion of
house to house.
Yeah, just kicking doors down, sleeping out in the freaking muddy, nasty crap water that was out there, and then joint ops with the Air Force and tanks were in, cordoned off the city, and then we were doing the satellite patrol thing for about those 2 weeks, which sucked. Yeah, hardcore. And then after that, we ended up coming back to Camp KV, and that's when we started doing more of the Aruba for the rest of the remainder of the months that were left.
Yeah, that was a good pump. It did suck, but like I felt like that was finally what I joined to do.
Yeah.
You know, we got back and the general, I think, came out to Trabeel and was like, "You boys happy to be back?" And I was like, "No."
Yeah.
That was why I joined the Marine Corps, not a TSA agent here on the Jordanian border.
Right.
And luckily, they flipped a Humvee, and we got to go back and do raids for the rest of the deployment. But
how long were y'all out there for? Like 3 months, 2 months?
At least, dude. At least. We weren't there very long after Fallujah.
Okay.
Because I think the guys were getting too comfortable after that, and we're just like, "Fuck this place," and. We got pulled back, and then it was doing those raids and getting stoned to death by kids in Aruba.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember one of the guys had to get like medevaced out of the city because we were getting rocks thrown so bad at us, and then when we were like incoming, he looked up and caught one right to the freaking nose.
You might remember it from 2005 when I was with the sniper platoon. I was still with the infantry platoon on this deployment. But I had written my mom, and I was like, "Hey, these kids are just throwing rocks at us. We can't engage from that, but we're getting stoned to death out here. Dudes getting stitches, getting, their face. I remember our first sergeant got hit in the face. And I was like, could you send me 4 slingshots and about 500 marbles?
Yeah.
And she did, dude. And it was game on.
Nice.
The next time we rolled into a root boat, we start hearing the kid, like the mob. And it's like ting, ting, ting. And I handed these slingshots to my buddies in the back of a high back. I was like, bro, you ready? And we're the very last vehicle. And we all post down but underneath the wall. And as soon as the mob starts to approach, we stand up over the back of this high back with slingshots and just drill these kids with these. And then we had a buffer, right? Then they knew that they had to stay within, you can launch a marble with a slingshot.
For sure.
Pretty fucking good.
And those things are hard, dude.
And that was the only way we could defend ourselves.
Yeah.
And when we ran out of marbles, we started freezing Skittles out of the MRE bags. But that was it, dude. It was that, and the rocks quickly, as you know, in Fallujah, turned into grenades.
Yeah.
And so,
well, that's what the setup was. I mean,
that was the game.
Yeah, exactly. The terrorists were using the kids and giving them candy and a couple of bucks or whatever, or dinars, to do that just so that way, you know what I mean?
It's a win-win for them. They don't care.
Yeah.
They either harass us and get close enough to throw a grenade in, or we have to shoot a kid, and that's, a PR nightmare.
For sure.
But they eat it up.
Yeah.
And that's the whole strategy
that was
of an
that was to see
insurgency.
the reaction to what we were going to do. So after, so many, weeks of that, constantly just getting hit by rocks and stones.
When they started with the Molotov cocktails, we finally were like, hey, that's a green light there.
Yeah.
And they went and told the sheik of the town, like, if that happens again, we're going to clear them hot. Mm-hmm. And it never happened again. They just stuck with rocks and bricks, which, we worked it out.
Yeah, no kidding. Adapt and overcome one way or another.
It was, and then we took them with us in 2005 as well. I was like, I shot this more than I did my rifle.
Yeah, true story. True story. I think I remember only using the our M16 or whatever a few times.
That one was a pretty slow one. They really started coming alive with the IEDs at the end, but they sucked at it
at that time,
because we didn't even have armored Humvees for most of that deployment.
No, bro, it was just tarps over the.
I remember rolling into Karma. I was attached to like a scout team to go ahead of the company, and we were with LAVs. And shit, it might have been the guy I talked to yesterday. I didn't talk about this, but I was in a zip-up door Humvee, rolling to Fallujah through Karma with armored tracks, and you could zip the window down on the Humvee that we were in. It's like, dude, we are going to get pink misted out here.
Yeah.
And we almost did. Like, we rolled into an ambush. There was double stack 155s daisy chained on both sides of the road. I don't remember how many, probably 5 or 6, because it was a good long section of the road. And then a 12.5 or whatever machine gun up on the hill. But no one was there to man it. And so we found it instead of getting hit by it.
Right.
And that was another graceful moment.
Yeah, let's say it's probably chow time or tea time.
Right.
Everybody just abandoned post.
Yeah, God saved us on that day. But so we did that one, and then we came home, and we did another one together in 2005. Right?
Yep. Fob Black.
What do you remember about that one? Yeah, Fob Black.
So we were on the outside of Fallujah on this one at ECP5, which was a checkpoint coming into Fallujah, right across from like Blackwater Bridge, where they hung all those contractors and from the bridge. So we were there. Fob Black, we had Fob Gold, which was an Iraqi army fob, and then we had like a squad or two, I guess, there. We had the dam on the Euphrates River that we were manning, ECP5, and then missions.
Yeah.
So our whole company, wait a minute, we were strung out on that one.
We rode hard and hung up wet, dude.
That one was a lot, bro. And we were seniors at this one.
Yeah.
You know, so we were junior Marines for like that first 7-month deployment, came back for like, 4 or 5 months, and then like rotated back into it and had a brand new like drop of junior guys, and then we were the lead. So then that when you went to snipers at that time?
Yeah, after our first one, as soon as we got back, I took the NDOC in November and went to school in January, got out in March, and we deployed in, I think, September.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we left the 4th of July.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We left the 4th of July in 2005.
Yeah. So March to July.
Because I remember the fireworks, bro, when we were in the airplane.
Oh,
we were leaving, and all the fireworks, everybody was having a good old time in the U.S. of A. And we were going back to the crap again. And once we got there, it's like we never even left, dude, because we went from Kuwait to Iraq on our first deployment. Then we went backwards and then ended up in 29 Palms, which is another dang desert. And then we were there for like 6-7 months and then rotated back out. It's like we never left freaking...
Can't imagine why nobody re-enlists.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe they should do a full rotation of all the bases before you get pumped out.
Yeah, so we were south of Fallujah, and we got to work together. You were squad leader, right?
Actually, I was a team leader on that pump. I was with...
What was that deployment like for you?
Dude, that one was harsh because like a lot of the leadership that we had that was real good on the first deployment started to like rotate out. And then we had new guys coming in that were leading. So we had a lot of problems in 2005 just because of the chain of command.
Yeah.
I mean, one of our COs got relieved.
Yeah.
At the beginning of that deployment.
Yeah. I told a story.
And that's like never really unheard of, bro. Like you're talking about like watching Band of Brothers and, you know, watching that, what is that, Captain, the guy that plays Ross on Friends or whatever?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
He'll always be Ross.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he got relieved of his duty or whatever.
Lieutenant Sobel.
That's him.
Yep.
That's him on the HBO. So it's only like heard of stuff like that happens in the movies or, you know, like the whole... It
was a mess.
It really was.
It was a mess.
And then again, at the rank that we were at the time, it's like we really didn't hear what was really going on, but we kind of got a gist of it.
It had to get real stupid. And I remember an entire platoon requested mass. Walked into the COC, put a letter on the first sergeant's desk, and refused to work until the colonel came. And I was on a mission out at that time, and I came back, was like, oh, what's going to happen now? Because I had my own beef with that CO.
Yeah.
I told a story on one of the previous ones where he told my sniper team to sneak off the base and try to sneak back in and see if the posts would catch us because he wanted to know if they were sleeping. I was like, you fucking kidding me, dude?
Yeah, so we're going to get popped.
Yeah, right? Like, they're either sleeping and you got them, or they're not and I get shot.
Yeah.
And so, luckily, the XO, I think you remember him, McCoy.
Oh, man, he was badass.
Solid.
Dude.
Yeah, he was great. Helped me out with that one. But, yeah, it wasn't a great moment for us.
That was a weird little deployment, man. We had a bunch of stuff going on that year. The
December
IEDs
1st.
The IEDs and the suicide bombers were starting to get a little bit more like technical and precise. We had that whole changeover of like the first CO leaving. I remember we had I don't know if you remember Saucy. He came to us from a different unit, and he was like H&S, and then he lost or almost lost his hand because he hit like a wire that was loose on top, and like the whole
I thought
power.
he was a medic.
No.
I remember. Yeah, they were building a post on a roof, and he reached up and he touched a power line.
Yep,
and it was
everything just turned black. Man, you just see like
Yeah.
this big old volt of like electricity just knighted out the sky, and we're like, what the heck was that? And then sure enough, they're like, Corman, and all you could hear is all this craziness going on.
Yeah, he went to Houston to
They
the
medevacked
burn
him out,
unit.
bro. He
Yeah,
almost lost his arm.
I bet.
Yeah.
There's no telling how much power was getting pushed through that line.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they have
that's
quite those
every
same
single time we went
regulations.
into a town. Like,
Oh,
we'd
yeah.
have to pull
Yeah,
down
yeah.
the antenna and, like, get underneath these wires because they would literally take your head off if you were going, 30 miles an hour or whatever. You had to keep an eye out for stuff like that. And it was just crazy. It was a weird little pump. And then, obviously, like, right when we were about to leave, like, the December 1st, we took the biggest hit.
What do you remember about that day?
So I was at ECP 5, and at 5 o'clock in the afternoon is when we were supposed to go and take QRF. So my squad took QRF and was supposed to be first responders after 5 p.m. So that happened like right around like 4:40, 4:30 time frame. So I felt and heard the explosion, and we were on the other side of Fob Black. So initially, when it first happened, like, I felt the shock. I saw the freaking mushroom cloud go up, and immediately I ran to all the hooches, and I was like, hey, everybody get ready because, like,
Yeah,
we're about to go
get
out.
on, yeah.
I said, we're about to go out. That was definitely us, and we got hit.
Did you go on site? Did you go down there?
No, man. Like, we went back to the vehicles. We jumped. We already had everything staged. We jumped in. We were ready to go, and we were, like, waiting for Fox 6 to give us the green light. They wanted to get all the corpsmen from, like, Fob Black. So since we were only just a platoon size at ECP 5, we only had, like, 1 or 2 corpsmen.
Do you know what happened that day?
Yeah, so so this is what sucked about that deployment. I'm talking about the chain of command. I got promoted as a corporal in that deployment, and I was with my platoon. We had gotten hit by IED, and the vehicle, the Humvee, like, was demolished. We couldn't move it, so we had to wait for EOD and, like, the I forgot what the vehicles are called, but they were gonna tow that Humvee out of there. So we basically cordoned off the area, and Fox 6 came out with our first sergeant, and because it was like the first or close to the first, they were doing promotions, and because we were outside of the wire, they were like, well, let's just go ahead and take care of it now, and get, it's Esparza. I think it was me, and I believe it was Mouse or Coco that had gotten promoted that day. So as we're underneath some, like, Iraqi's house's driveway, we're sitting there at attention with full gear, M16s, like condition 1, loaded, shades on and everything. We're in formation as they're clearing the same house that we're sitting there listening to the promotion ceremony. And, they're, hear ye, all those presidents, da-da-da-da. And in the background, you can hear, clear, boom, clear, doom, clear. Like, they're clearing the house. And we're outside the wire. So at that time, Sergeant Gould was like, fuck this, I'm walking away from it.
Yeah.
And he walked away. He's like, I'm not going to stand part of that ceremony because it's bullshit.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? I thought he was, like, talking about us. Like
you
we
don't
didn't deserve it or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, no. He's like, they should not have done that.
There's no reason to do that in the field,
Yeah.
in a combat zone.
Yeah.
Like, you can promote those guys back
Once
at the
we get
base when they're safe.
And that's what happened on December 1st, man.
If you're going to do it like that, then walk your ass up, slap it on his shoulder while he's in the stack, and walk away.
Yeah.
Don't get him in formation. And that's exactly what happened on December 1st. And
those guys were out on missions because it was 3-day missions for one platoon, 3-day post, and then 3-day QRF. And then you would rotate. So it was constant, 3 days on, missions or whatever you'd be going for those days, and then 3 days of QRF, and then 3 days of standing post. So those guys were gone. I guess it had to have been, the last of November, the 1st of December. And because it was the 1st, they decided to let's go ahead and promote these guys outside the wire since they're out there. And they met up at the Flower Factory, which is a sub-name for just a opening, like, shoe horse type of, like, wall that had 3 sides covered and one way in, one way out. And some of the Marines had used that in prior for, like, LPOPs, but they left their trash and MRE shit and stuff here and stuff there. So they left evidence of being there. and they ended up having the December 1st formation to promote these guys outside the wire, and they used that facility.
Mm-hmm.
And when they went there, it wasn't just like one platoon. I mean, it was H&S, it was all of 2nd,
Mm-hmm.
and Robbie Martinez was one of the ones that was supposed to get promoted that day. And it pisses me off as of today because on his actual like tombstone, they still got him as a Lance Corporal. So
Really?
they not that they covered it up, but they just kind of, they threw it that they were outside the wire and that they were on a combat mission.
I remember that.
Which is true.
Right.
But they like failure to say they were in a formation outside the wire.
Yeah. We pulled them off their mission so that
so
we could go outside the wire ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really,
I have
I
no
don't
idea.
understand it. I've never understood it.
No idea, but
It's
it happened, man. And then again, like we were at ECP 5 and I could hear all the radio chatter going on. I mean, Fox 6 jumped on. He's like, give us all the corpsmen at Fob Black. We need a medevac here. And this was minutes after.
Yeah.
And that's when they started pulling everybody off the post and everybody that was available at Fob Black. And then we were standby just in case there was a secondary or maybe even a third small arms fire type deal. But I never went on site. But later on that evening, we went to Fob Black and pulled up next to him to kind of like figure out what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's when you could see all the bags and pieces of everybody that was
10
like
dead.
loaded up, bro. It was crazy. It was 10 KIA'd and then another 11 injured on top of that, which was like the most.
The whole platoon, yeah.
Yeah. And it was the biggest explosion and like most casualty of Iraq up until that point, which was back in 2005.
Yeah.
So we had been there for 2 years already
Yeah.
and never took anything that big.
Yeah.
But again, it was the chain of command that was kind of real hazy, that deployment. Yeah, it's scary to say, but
I know.
we survived that too. And again, that stuck with me for the longest time because like having to see the parents when we came back to Victory Field and doing the memorial back in 29 Palms when, you know, we ran into everybody's mom and dad and we're having to face them and sit there and be like, well, what happened? Like, can you explain this? Or do you want to talk about that? Or we want to talk about how Oompa had like taken these Boy Scouts as like pots and pans in the middle of 29 Palms when they were out like messing around one weekend, and like the parents wanted to hear that story and how that came about. And I still have those pans, man.
Yeah.
Oompa gave them to me. He gave them to me in the barracks. He was like, hey, man. I was like, he goes, you do a lot of cooking, right? I was like, yeah. He was like, I got these pans. I was like, where'd you get these from? And then he told me the whole story. I was like, Oompa, what are you guys doing? He was like, well, that'll teach those kids not to have a fire watch anymore or whatever. Like,
He just stole pants from some Boy Scouts.
out in the desert, bro.
Oh, God.
It was a trip. But, man, you know, some of the stuff that, like I said, the parents wanted to know a little bit more of the personal things, like what the guys did and
I know.
how
I've been
this
very
story
hesitant
happened.
to discuss it at all because I don't want to hurt anybody.
Yeah, it's rough, man. But again, that's another reason why I strongly believe that we're here and God kept us alive is to like tell that story, tell these stories and kind of puzzle all the stuff that, you know, that I don't remember that you may have remembered and puzzle that together and then have the complete, like full on, you know, truth.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, so one of my junior guys that we got blown off of the bridge was working at Costco for a while, and he lost his arm. So he got so like tired of like telling people that, you know, the same story or whatever, because people would always ask him like, hey, how'd you lose your arm? Were you in the military? That he got tired of like saying that and was like, no, I was born this way. Just so that way he would like avoid that conversation. I was like, dude, like that's like our obligation, bro. Like that's our duty now.
Man.
Is to tell that story because they're going to come up to us because they know that we were on the ground. We were there. And then you're going to come back home and tell them that you weren't even in the military because you don't want to tell that story. Like they want to get the news from somebody who was actually there, not CNN, not Fox News, not the fucking bullshit media, you know, that's going on today because they twist things, they switch things, and they don't really give the full truth. It's just like they're covering up a bunch of stuff. So, again, I told him, he's like, dude, you know what? I've never thought about it that way, but now that you're saying it, he goes, you're absolutely freaking right. He goes...
Man, I have decided never to tell this part of the story because I didn't want to. And hearing you say that, you're right. Those lessons can't be learned in blood if you don't talk about them. And man, I remember I was supposed to support that team on that movement. We were at the Jundi base right down the road from the Flower Factory to provide Overwatch. Yeah. We were this, the sniper team, Guardian Angels. 5
gold, yep.
And I went to one of the guys and I said, hey, I need to know where you guys are going to be this week because we're going out as well. We'd go out for, a week at a time or so. And I need to be able to link up with y'all. Where are your patrol bases? Like, what houses are you going to take this week? And they laid it out. They're like, we're going to go to this one on the first day. We're going to go to this one on the second day. And we're going to go to this one on the third day. And I got kind of mad. I was like, well, when was the fucking brief? Like, I've been waiting all day so that I could hear what y'all's plan is going to be.
Yeah, because
it's like, we didn't do one. We go there every week. And, like, my heart dropped. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? You go there every week. He's like, yeah, we go to this one the first day. We go to this one the second. This is what we do. That's why we didn't do a brief. I was like, that's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
He's like, well, don't talk to me. I don't make the decision. But I did not get along with most of those lieutenants very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I went to Company Gunny, who was cool as shit, right? And I said, hey, Gunny, do you know what these guys are doing? Like, they're going back to these same places every week. And you remember him. He's like, nah, pimp. Like, stay in your lane, dog. And I'm like, because I was a Lance Corporal. And I was like, man, this is like Infantry 101.
Yeah.
And so I jumped him and I went to First Sergeant. I said, hey, First Sergeant, do you know what these guys are doing? Like, I'm looking for somebody to talk to, an officer for me, because no one's going to listen to me. And I got stay in your lane again. And I was like, whatever, fuck it. And then Gunny came to my room that night after all that happened in full-blown tears and apologized. I'm like, man, I don't know what to say. Like, they're all fucking dead. And that's fucked with me my whole life. I don't know if that's survivor guilt, that I knew it was wrong. I didn't push harder.
Right.
That's been the part of that story that I've been very hesitant to tell. But it's the way it is, man. Like, these lessons are learned in blood, and if we don't fucking talk about them, because it is Infantry 101. You don't go back to the same place. You don't make patterns.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We had that written on the wall, man, that said complacency kills. Every time you leave the wire, complacency kills. But it's like a
warning or a mantra, like, or motto.
Yeah, no kidding. Again, man, I totally feel where you're coming from. And again, everybody had a big part to do in that. But at what point, like, do you say to yourself, like, what else can I do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I did all the green lights. I went through all the AO. I went through the, like, sit rep, and you're looking at all the stuff that we're supposed to be doing, and you're doing it properly, but there's no follow through with it, and that's not on us at all. Like, we did everything that we could.
It's not like the majority of leadership in the Marine Corps is approachable. Like, how do you bring up to someone, hey, you're doing it wrong, when they outrank you?
Yeah.
You're not fucking allowed to.
See, and that's why I loved having, like, our NCOs and our staff NCOs on that first pump, because they were still instilled that troop welfare, man. Like, listen to your fucking Lance Coolies, listen to your privates and PFCs, because they're the ones that are out there on the outside the wire. Like, they see what's going on, and that that's been a big thing. And when Lorette and Clay, like, came in that leadership position, bro, they would tell the lieutenants and the officers, you're doing it fucking wrong.
Yeah.
And this is the way we should be doing it, and this is the way we're gonna do it, which would, let them know, like, okay, we need to, like, listen to our senior advisement here instead of just letting them, like, okay, well, I think we should go this way. Do you know, like, that area? Like, remember that big raid that we did
where they totally missed the area?
No, where we had, like, fucking 30 or 40 like wadis filled with water that we had to cross to go do a night op, and then they were like, carry this bulky ass, like, bridge, it's heavy, and, like, full gear in the middle of the night, and then by, like, the third wadi they were just like, just fucking leave it. Like, and we would just start jumping across the trash and the stuff that's floating in the river. It's like, bro, why go through all that crap if it's not even gonna, like, you know, gonna work out, because you have an idea, but it's not necessarily the best one on the fly.
And it really seemed like there was just a push or a demand to do something. It didn't matter what it was. Right. Like, is this intel driven at all? Because it never seemed to be.
Dude, when I was attached with you guys, we got more intel from, like, the locals.
Oh, yeah.
And how long did I do with you guys? Maybe like a month?
I think so.
About a month time frame. We picked up all kinds of, like, local intel just because we were
out there.
Yeah.
We're out there and we're talking to them. I don't know if you were with me on one of them, but we were watching that village over off Patty. And, you know, you just notice things that are off, right? And for whatever reason, there was nobody outside anywhere in the whole village for the bulk of the day. It was just dead, which is usually like we need to be extra aware, because if all of a sudden traffic stops and then a convoy rolls through, right? Like, it's magic that everybody knows. Well, when it got dark, my team, we all kind of like, yeah, there's something off. And so we went to a nearby house, and I had stayed there a couple of times during that deployment. I knew the guy to a certain degree. We had talked a few times, and so he remembered me, and I was like, hey, just a weird question. Why is there nobody? What's going on it's a holiday, and his kids were in the house crying. And he's super, like, solemn. He's like, no.
Shit's about that time.
Yeah, he's like, one of a neighboring sheik or whomever tried to assassinate this one, but killed his son instead. And so he retaliated by coming to the school and kidnapping the other guy's son, took him out and brought him back decapitated and dropped him in the parking lot of the school with all of the kids. I was like, hot damn. Okay, I understand why your kids are crying now, you know. But it's another world, man.
Yeah, totally different. And then trying to adjust with the communication, and then us being in their territory and not wanting us to be there in the first place just makes it extra harder. Yeah. But I remember that time, like during the time that I was with you guys, we saw that old man that had that donkey that was like walking in the middle of the field, and we're like, where's this guy going? And then all of a sudden, like, he disappeared into like the Wadi area or whatever it was, and then all of a sudden, like,
mortars,
you see the poofs start taking off, and you're calling like back, and they're getting hit at Fob Black, and
they won't give me the green light to shoot him.
Yeah, and then like 2 minutes later, he pops back up, and then he's got blankets and all kinds of stuff like covering the donkey. Yep. I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me! And we saw the actual poof sites from there, and they still denied us.
Do you remember I gave Eric the green light to shoot that HE?
The two. That's when all the dead goats showed up out of nowhere. And then they wanted reimbursement for that.
He's just itching too. He's like, bro, let me. I'm like, oh, man. I was like, maybe they'll engage us back, and that will justify that. Right. And so he launches one, and I remember the CO comes out after. I was like, this is where they were shooting at you guys. That's where I was. You wouldn't. I don't know what else you want me to do. Yeah. You know, I'm just here to watch. I might as well leave my rifle at the base, because all of them were just afraid to give me a green light. And so we walk over this little hill, and there's like 3 dead sheep and just shit everywhere. And he looks at that, and he looks at me. He's like, do I want to know? I was like, no, sir, you don't. It's like, roger that. And we just kept on walking. And that's where it was like back and forth. I was like, is this dude, you know, it's hard to read the situation. And yeah, what a time.
Yeah, that was wild.
You mentioned
we had to pick a fight there and there too, man, because it's like, again, I remember several different things that happened on that deployment, man, that were just kind of sketchy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that vehicle on, what was that, MSR Mobile, or whichever one was the L shape that like let out going towards...
There was Michigan over there. There was Mobile. There was Patty. It was down by the dam.
Yep. I think it was the one that led out to...
Camp Fallujah?
I think so.
I think that was...
But that vehicle that we had lit up the year before was still there. Like bullet holes and everything just all rusted out in the same spot that we had left it the year prior,
the
we're
first
still in the same
deployment.
spot. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
I was like, now we're even closer, like, to this crap.
I remember that was the first time I ever ran toward gunfire.
Yeah.
As we were walking outside down the roads, and all of a sudden it was like just chaos.
Bro, I got stuck on that roof.
And everyone started running toward it, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I feel like I'm going the wrong way. Like,
yeah, you're going towards the flames and towards
I'm going the wrong
heat.
way. I don't feel like I want to run toward this right now. This sounds like absolute death.
Yeah, we were satellite patrolling, and we took over a rooftop on one of those buildings, and the road was literally probably like 100 to like 150 like feet from where we were at. So we felt the heat. We felt, we saw it all happen.
Yeah.
We opened up on it ourselves, but there was so much fire coming in. There was like, our Carisi was like, dude, ceasefire.
Yeah. It's like the whole company opened fire all of a sudden.
So I don't know if you remember, like back in that deployment, ACOGs weren't a thing. Mm-mm. So they gave 2 ACOGs per squad to the highest shooters. And one was Moreno from McAllen area. And then the second one was me. So I had an ACOG, and I was checking out the whole, I was watching these guys shake. Saw the bullet holes. They looked like one of the cartoon things because there's like water coming out of the back. You know what I mean? Whenever they shot up the back of it. And then once it lit up, it was just full on. But we were there for so long that the tar melted onto my camis.
Oh, yeah.
And I was laying in the prone. And I had, so then when we got like ready to pick up and move, Carice was like, hey, we're moving out. And I'm like, uh-oh.
I'm stuck.
Uh-oh. And he's like, Morante, wake your ass up. I was like, I'm not asleep. I'm stuck to the roof. He's like, get your punk ass up. I'm like, I'm stuck to the roof. And they peeled me like Velcro. Bro, I had camis that looked like zebras all the way down. CO had to get me like new camis like shipped in from I don't know where. But for like the next 3 or 4 days, I was walking around with zebra printed like salty camis. And I had tar on my M16, my magazine, my flak. Everything was just covered in tar. So it was like, I was obvious who I was, you know what I mean? So they're like, let's get them in some new camis and switch them out of that. But then those camis stood out from everybody else's because they were all brand new and starchy, and it was just itchy.
You looked like a boot.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We had a pretty fun mission on that one. I remember you were a little out of uniform.
Yeah. That happened.
Why did you not have pants on?
Because we ended up, did
you fall in one of the shitholes or something?
I think I got like completely wet at one of the wadis.
Okay.
And we were wearing the flight suits at that time. So I was attached to your team as the security element. Mm-hmm. So I forgot who was running it before, but I came in with a bunch of guys that I didn't even know. They were all from weapons. But I was, I guess, the most experienced team leader or whatever, so they put me on the security team element to back you guys up. So we were walking from place to place, and then I think I ended up falling into like the Euphrates or one of those wadis that led up to it, and I got like soaked, and my boots and everything were all just super freaking wet, and it was stinky too. So we get
That's where they all shit.
Yeah, because everybody goes behind their house and it all. Yep, I know. I know too well. We ended up staying at a house. We took over a house, and I had asked you. I was like, "Are we staying here for the night?" You're like, "Yeah." I said, "Okay," because I need to get out of this.
Yeah.
And let this thing just like dry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I was super. And so the gentleman that owned the house, like, pretty much saw me in my skibbies, and was like, "Oh, no, we'll get you something to sleep in or whatever." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, we're talking Arabic back and forth. He's like, "Yeah, I got some pants for you or whatever." I'm like, "All right." So he pulls out like these Haji PJs, which was like blue, purple, like picnic style looking like flannel.
Okay.
PJs.
I thought they were SpongeBob SquarePants for some reason.
They might have been. I didn't check them out that much. I didn't do the catwalk thing before I tried them on. But he was so like stubborn about it. Like, he wanted me to wear those pants. Mm-hmm. And he's like, no, we got you. And then like he gave me like a pair of sandals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was like, all right, well, we're staying here for the night anyways, so we won't pick up until the morning. We were gonna crash out, and then I think it was probably like within the hour time frame. Like, you came and woke us up, and you're like, "Hey,
they made us move."
Yeah, we're moving like right now. I was like,
yeah.
What the fuck's going on?
I remember.
So I was like, "Well, how far are we going?" And you're like, "Dude, we're probably gonna go a couple of blocks." I'm like, Well, then why get back into the same sweaty and, nasty freaking flight suit?
I wish I had a camera that day.
Oh, man, it would have been awesome.
Us just on patrol down the side of the road.
In the middle of the night.
And one dude in these, and I swear they were SpongeBob, but maybe I'm wrong, in these pajama pants in the back.
Full Kevlar, flak, everything else is on, and like sandals.
Yep.
And carrying everything else that I had in the backpack.
That was a cool moment.
My day pack or whatever. But it was funny because I remember the lights coming down the road, and you're like, get off the road. Everybody move off to the side. And he's like, fuck, I hope that's not Fox 6 right now. Because if he sees us, we're going to be in so much shit.
Yeah.
It's like, who the hell is this guy? Yeah. Like, who'd y'all pick up? And
I remember I got it wasn't an NJP, it was like an Article 15 or whatever for not wearing a throat protector during one of the moves. There's no telling what they would have done to you for SpongeBob pants. Oh,
man, I was getting in so much trouble with that deployment. I got in trouble for not shaving on, I think it was when we did that, what did we do on that deployment? We did a raid where it was like four days, I think.
Yep, and over Christmas.
Oh my God, dude! Do you remember that?
Like I talked to Skinta about it. Yeah,
we were moving from spot to spot, and then we were setting up like hasty LPOPs, and everybody was sleeping on top of each other. And at first, it was like you'd lay down on the concrete, and you're like, "Oh man, this concrete feels good because it's cold." And you couldn't take your flak off or nothing, so you're just like laying there. But within like 30 minutes. Like, you're freezing, shivering because the concrete was so damn cold and you're wet from sweat and stuff like that. So we did, like, a 3-day thing where, bro, like, we didn't get a chance to, like, really sleep. And we were just pushing and pushing and pushing. And then my squad got sent out to go, and this was when we found that torture house, remember? Yeah. We found that torture house, so everybody was, like, so occupied on that. And then,
I do remember that, yes.
So then they pushed us out. And they're like, y'all guys head that way, and I need you to scan, like, the whole area. Well, not even a click away, we ran into a shed, and that's where they had all the literal, like, they were called, the pressure plates for the IEDs.
Oh, really? They were making them?
Yeah, they had all the shells there. Like, it looked like a little, like, road bump, but they were hollow in the middle, and that's where they would stuff in, like, the 155s or whatever. So as soon as you'd go over that plate, it would sink down and set it off. So the whole shed was filled with those things. Wow. So then I came back and was talking to the CEO. I was like, hey, that place has got, like, all the stuff that, all the XOs or the UXO stuff, and they're making IEDs in there. So he looks at me and he goes, don't talk to me until you go and shave that face. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? I was like, bro, like, this is a 3-day, like, whatever, of not shaving, but we never stopped. Man. And where do you want me to pull out a razor in the middle of, like, the desert, you know what I mean?
That's
and worry about shaving while we're, like, we just found 20 of these things.
It's one of my biggest complaints about the Marine Corps' just structure of the way that they move people around. It's like once you pick staff sergeant, if you've been in the infantry, you can't stay. You get pushed over to be a recruiter or be a drill instructor or go work in the air wing. And so all of that experience goes straight out the door and they bring some logistics guy in or some air wing guy in or a drill instructor and they put him in charge of an infantry platoon who doesn't know shit about
the garrison.
And cares more about the only thing he can control and understand, which is uniform regulations. If you have the right socks on or you have the right shave, it's like, listen, motherfucker, I just found the place that has all the bombs that are killing people. Don't talk to me until you shave your face. You're screaming at the sky. You know what I mean?
And it takes every, like, ounce of you, like, not to fucking, like, go crazy and just, like, want to well on somebody.
I know.
For something like that. But then you're like, all right, well, then I get in so much more trouble for doing that shit.
We were attached to the S2 shop, that deployment, as the sniper team was supposed to be, finally. And I remember the intel guy that was tasked with watching all of the videos as evidence that were being kept in that torture house. And that dude was never the same. He wouldn't even speak. And we were friends. I was like, hey, how's it going, man? He was completely shut down. And he gave me some details about a little bit of what, and they're like, we need someone to watch all these tapes. And they just like, boot, you do it. And he had to watch that. And I remember they pumped, there's a big picture. I remember, I think Fox 6 posted it up, but of them, they pumped that house full of diesel and burned it to the ground.
Yeah, they put a couple incendiary grenades in there too. And I remember the smoke from that.
It's like blood and hay on the floor and handcuffs on the walls.
Yeah. We walked in there, and they're like, yeah, you definitely don't want to go inside that house at all.
The whole town wouldn't even talk about it. Nobody would bring it up. Nobody would do anything. You jumped over. Is there anything else you want to discuss on that one? Or that one's been heavy.
Yeah, that one's a tough one, dude.
Not that the next one's any better over here. I know you lost your leg on the next one.
Yeah, it just keeps going downhill from there. Huh? Yeah, you're right about the whole re-enlistment thing, man. It's no wonder.
That's what happens. They just flip it all around. It's like, well, what the fuck are you supposed to? Who are you supposed to listen to? Because all your experience just walked out the door.
Yeah,
for diversity, so that people get to.
The third was pretty much similar, man. It's like a domino effect, bro. From the first time we went to the last time. Did you end up going on that third pump?
Oh yeah, no? I extended my enlistment 4 months to finish that out because we had 4-man teams, and that was the minimum. And if I had left, they would have left the team inoperational.
Same thing happened with me. Really? I was supposed to be like a partial for that one, and I was already a squad leader for. They moved me over to 3rd Platoon, so I was in 3rd Platoon, went to squad leader school down at Pendleton, came back. They moved me from 1st, switched me over to 3rd. Had no idea what I was getting into when I came to 3rd. As the most senior, I guess, and most experienced, like corporal, they had me on a Boots fire team, like I was part of his team.
Really?
Yeah. Because...
Who'd you piss off?
Shit, everybody, I guess. No, because, Sergeant Walker had been a sergeant because he was in longer. He had just came to us because he was at... he was training, like, officers how to do land nav for the last 2 years.
Well, who doesn't have leadership after that?
Yeah. So they gave him first squad, and they attached me to his squad. But because he was already established and he already had his fire team leaders, which were all junior Marines, he went ahead and just stuck me in somebody's team until they figured out what was going to happen. So then back and forth, I was, like, talking to 1st Platoon. I was like, dude, like, why'd you guys send me over to fucking 3rd if I was just going to be some Boots, like... fire team. And he's like, Corporal, can I see your bayonet? And I was like,
what?
Like, I got it, because he's like, well, I got to check everybody's serialized gear. I was like, motherfucker, like, if you don't get away from me, I'm going to fucking drop kick you. I was like, don't
it's the 3rd time today.
Yeah,
it's right
no
here.
kidding. Yeah, I was like, bro, this is my 3rd deployment.
You
like
have nothing else to do right now.
So I was going to go to the drill field is where I was going. I had re-enlisted to go to the drill field after that Mojave Viper pump.
Really?
And I was in 3rd Platoon. They had me at for the first couple of weeks, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that staff NCO that had taken that platoon had just gotten off recruiting duty. Mm-hmm. So he hadn't seen any kind of combat in quite some time.
Didn't know shit about fuck.
So initially, they had me as a fire team, in a fire team, just a regular member. And then Jordan was second squad leader, second squad leader, and he was in my fire team the year prior as my radio operator in that 05 deployment. But he came in from security forces, so he picked up sergeant, so they gave him. So I was finally promoted or whatever, gave the title to 3rd squad leader as a corporal towards that, like, Mojave Viper excursion right before we left. But shit, that took a while. So, because again, I was talking to first, and then first sergeant lit up our platoon sergeant, was like, why the fuck do you have this guy in a fire team when he's, like, going on his 3rd pump? So I trained with them for about 6 months, and then I was going to leave. And I heard that they were going back again on that third pump, and I was like, well, fuck, I just trained as a squad leader with these guys for, like, the last 6 months, so if I leave, who's going to step in? So I deferred my orders, and I went on that last pump. So I extended.
You do feel a lot of obligation, like, toward the guys.
Yeah, man.
Big time. I felt it too.
Big time, bro.
Like,
well, I mean, imagine all the stuff that we had, like, faced the first 2 deployments. Mm-hmm. And to see that same BS happen over and over again. Mm-hmm. And then we lose Clay on the December 1st thing, who was one of the guys that instilled about troop welfare and take care of your guys. And,
Clay was awesome, yeah.
Dude, and then all of a sudden, like, you're like, well, I got, orders to go somewhere else. But if I leave and something happens to these guys, like, how am I going to fucking feel afterwards?
That's why I extended. Like, if anything happened to them.
And that's usually every Marine that we know that has stayed in for so long. They're not doing it for, their personal thing. They're doing it because they want to be there with the rest of the guys. Like with the new ones that are coming in, they want to guide them properly and make sure that they don't get hit on some stupid stuff and learn from the mistakes. And if you don't instill that, you know what I mean? It's like if you're not there, who's going to open up? Who's going to say something?
Yeah, E5 and down's the only thing holding it all together.
Yeah, because again, I mean, this is words from the trail, man. If we just got the Marines to go in there and unleash them, they'd fucking have that place taken over in 3-4 days, which is true. Yeah. But we have so many chains just pulling us back on not doing our job.
Yeah, you've got politics involved, and when you get politics involved in anything,
but none of them are over there.
It's true. None of them are there. Their kids ain't there. Yeah. That's what it ought to be. The presidents of each country should just fight it out, and the winner gets, like, right? Why you gotta murder?
We would be in a lot of trouble right now.
Yeah, we'd be pretty fucked right now.
Yeah.
But so that deployment was a pivotal moment in your life.
Yeah. Talk
to me about what happened.
Yeah, so on that deployment, we had, again, a new chain of command, and the suicide and snipers on that deployment were, like, high, bro, real high. We were getting hit by suicide bombers, like, monthly.
I remember Lieutenant McCoy came to me one time with a dick in a bag. He had found a suicide bomber's dick and put it in a Ziploc.
Yep.
And I think he, like, smacked people with it as he was running. No, it wasn't McCoy. It was the FAC. What was... I remember his name. Maybe I shouldn't say his name just because these are professional people now.
Yeah. Yeah, but, I don't remember that part.
The FAC had a dick in a bag, and he was running around showing it to everybody. Yeah. It was hilarious.
It progressed a lot, man. We took a lot of casualties that deployment on just sniper pop fires and then small arms or, like, suicide bombers and then small arms fire afterwards.
But again, the command made the decision to place a post on top of an overpass.
Yep, that was fully available for everybody to use from 10 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night.
On a main highway, yeah.
That was MSR Mobile. It cut right through Iraq.
Yeah. And you were on that bridge that day. Do you remember seeing the vehicle?
Bro, there were so many cars coming underneath us that...
So it wasn't like the roads are empty and just one suspicious dump truck coming down. It was just traffic.
No, you were just picture I-10 highway cutting through America.
Wow.
And then one of those overpasses you're just standing on top of.
Looking down the road.
Looking down and watching everybody come underneath you.
Wow.
For the first 3 months, we were at a cop on the other side of a bridge, just that platoon. And then when I came to, like, get resupplied, I don't know if you remember Hernandez from Second Platoon.
That's a pretty common name.
Hernandez from Second Platoon.
Yeah.
He was manning that bridge. His squad was.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, dude, what the fuck are you guys doing out there? And he's like, bro, they got us up here like in the LPOP. And at that time, it was just the bridge and like two little.
Oh, they didn't have a little.
Nothing, bro.
Wow.
It was like a mock little post on one side, which was a fake one. Mm-hmm. There was nobody in it because it was on the other side of the bridge. And then they had just like a little area, like sandbags.
I remember the sandbags. I did a tour up there once, but I was like, fuck this.
It was horrible, bro. And they lived there. Like they were living there and they would rotate out. And I was like, how many guys you got up there? And they're like, 8. I'm like, where's the rest of the squad? He goes, well, they're standing post and they're rotating out of post. And then they're rotating us out like every 2 days. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, do you remember ECP-5, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we had like a serpentine, we had a full checkpoint, we had a bat system to where the vehicles that were coming in, we would see what was inside of them before they even came anywhere close to us. Dude, this was not like that at all. There was 8 guys, 4 on post, 4 off post, sleeping in like little cots in between time frame. North, east, south, and west were the post, and you're watching 8 clicks of highway, both sides.
Wow.
So we were up there for the longest time, and we were 800 meters away from the actual FOB, which was a 5-story building. They called it FOB Riviera for that same reason, because I guess it used to be a hotel. But the market square was like probably like another 800 meters from the FOB, and then we were just on the highway. So we had those 3 little spots closest to the FOB. And again, I kind of like wanted to get briefed on the orders, like, what are we doing? Why are we here? And because tanks and tracks were getting hit with IEDs on the side of the road so much that they wanted a permanent post up there to kind of keep an eye out for anybody laying IEDs.
Right.
But it was only like that that patch, you know, of what we could see, which was the 8 clicks either which way. After that, it was the same thing. They were still getting hit because we couldn't see any further than that. It minimized it some, but not at the risk that we were taking.
Just gave them a stationary target.
Yeah, and we were sitting ducks, bro. Sitting ducks up there. The only thing, again, that I could have done to like avoid that or had that happen, because we tried requesting masks. We tried asking the lieutenant colonel, like, hey, can you get us off of here? Or like,
really?
So the lieutenant colonel came out, looked at the building, and he got pissed off at us because the guys that were off of duty were taking their flax off and taking their Kevlars off to sleep on the cots. And he was like, hell no. Like, you guys are still outside the wire. You guys need to be in full gear 24/7. I was like, sir, we live out here. Like,
yeah.
We're on this thing stationary. Every 2.5 days, 2 guys get rotated out. My APL and another junior Marine that gets rotated out to get showers or to, you know, talk on the phone or whatever the case may be, get some, like, decent chow or whatever.
Right.
So our corpsman, Doc, because there's only one per squad, had nobody to rotate out with. He had to stay and live on that fucking bridge.
Damn.
Bottle showers.
I did not know that.
Not talking to his wife, not talking to anybody at home because he was stuck on that bridge.
Man, Doc breaks my heart.
Big time. Yeah, it's been 16 years, bro, and he's still in a vegetated, like, state.
Yeah.
He's not in a coma anymore, but he can't express himself vocally. He gets fed through tubes. He has to be, like, completely dependent of a nurse 24 hours a day. And he's at home. And his son, who he didn't get the chance to see born, is now 16.
Yeah,
she was pregnant on that deployment. And we used to clown with Doc. We used to clown with Doc on the bridge. We'd be like, Doc, we're getting extended. You're not going to see your son being born. And he's like, fuck you guys. I'll walk over there. I don't give a shit. You know? But it's been 16 years, bro. And his son's about to, like, you know, in high school, and he's doing good. Avon's still staying strong. But again, Doc took it the worst out of all of us, dude. We got hit April 20th, 2007, probably at like noon, maybe noonish time frame. And the dump truck that came underneath us was like they after they fortified it, because again the lieutenant colonel came on, and he was like, yeah, this is like unsat. So they had engineers come in and put plywood up and put like a little fucking Kwanzaa looking hut, and then put sandbags on the outside of that. We had like some 7-ton glass at the north and south post to cover like the guys on the guns, and they fortified it a little bit. But then, you know, again, we had the dump truck came underneath. 3,000 pounds of explosives is what they estimated. Blew the bridge to smithereens. It blew it in half. So, like, we were on top, we flew, some of us flew off, some of us fell, and then the rest of the bridge, like, collapsed on us. So, again, we got hit, like, right around, like, noonish time frame, and then I don't know how long I was out for, but I came to, and I was completely covered in concrete, and I had to, like, get my way out. The crazy thing about that story is that my dad passed away, like, a month prior to that, and I had found out, like, in the middle of April, because I had rotated off of the bridge. I got back to the fob. I was able to call home. I got word, hey, your dad passed away, and they announced it, and I was like, fuck, this sucks. So I didn't talk to anybody about that. I told one guy, which was one of my junior Marines, one of my team leaders, and then he brought it up to the chain of command, and they were going to give me, like, leave to go on emergency leave and go home. And I was like, I can't do that. One, he already had passed away for, like, it was almost a month. I think he passed away, like, on March 18th. I didn't find out until, like, the 12th or 13th of April.
Oh, shit.
So, you know, got the chaplains and everything involved, and they all came to me, and I was like, fucking Hot Rod, why'd you say something? Because I knew this was going to come. Mm-hmm. So I really didn't want to go. But then again, Lieutenant Colonel came up to me. He's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, look, to be honest, like, just give me 7 days to mourn my father. Let me go home, like, to the Camp Fallujah and actually get on a call center where we're not using a satellite phone for 5 minutes.
Right.
And figure out what happened. Maybe I could send some money home. Maybe I can go, like, at the time, I was real big into Catholicism. And I was a Catholic background because that's what I was raised with. So I wanted to go to a Catholic service and speak to a Catholic preach at the time. And we didn't have that. We had a Protestant chaplain. So they're like, dude, 7 days, that's all you want? That's easy. We'll send you to Camp Fallujah. We got weapons platoon going out there. We'll drop you off. You'll do, your thing. And I think it was Al-Assad, if I'm not mistaken, one of those bases. But they were like, we'll give you 7 days. You'll mourn your dad, and you come back and stay in the fight. I said, cool. Dude, I went out there, and like 30 hours later, they called me back. First sergeant was like, hey, you got to get back over here. Weapons platoon's coming back. You're coming back with them. I was like, I didn't get a chance to do shit. Like, I had to wait around all day to get like one of those little shuttle buses to like take me in the main side. When I went there, the church, I think it was supposed to be on a Monday, and I got there like on a Wednesday. So then again, I get shipped back. I'm there Thursday evening, and then I'm looking for my lieutenant, my platoon sergeant. Nobody's around. I talked to the first sergeant. First sergeant was like, yeah, man, we needed you out here. We're hurting on bodies. You couldn't get to 7 days. You'll probably go some other time. So we're going to put you back out to the bridge. And they shot me back out to the bridge. And then Friday, that morning, we get a call on the mic, and they're like, hey, requesting permission to enter friendly lines. And at that time, I was off, but I was leaving one of my team leaders in charge, and I was like, hey, you got this, you know what I mean? Trying to teach him some of the squad leading roles. And he was like, okay, roger that. So he's like, come on in, how many Vics, blah, blah, blah. Well, it was the chaplain. Chaplain came in, and he was like, we're looking for Corporal Morante. And I'm like, the fuck? So I get up, I'm like, yeah, I'm here. And he goes, I heard about what happened with your father. And I was like, fuck, there we go again, right?
Round two.
Yeah, so I was like, here we go. And I was like, yeah, I was supposed to go to Camp Fallujah and do this or whatever. And so he goes, well, I heard you wanted to like have a Catholic service. And I was like, yep. And he goes, well, since you couldn't get to one, we brought you a Catholic priest here. And it's crazy, bro, because all 8 of us that were on the bridge, 4 of us were Catholic and the other 4 were Protestant. So what we did is we rotated fire watch and stood post while each other had mass right there on the freaking bridge.
Wow.
In between like the mist of all the cars coming underneath us and stuff like that going on. So as they were leaving, one of my junior Marines was asking me for an empty bottle of water because he needed to relieve himself. And that's what we went to the bathroom in because we didn't have any of that stuff. So we were peeing in empty water bottles. So he's asking me for an empty water bottle, and I handed him one. I was like, look, I got one here. And then I had mentioned something to him, obviously talking about his piece, getting stuck in the bottle or whatever, playing around with him. And that's the last thing that I remember cognitively before waking up after the blast. So...
did your leg get blown off completely?
No, it was still attached. It was attached by some threads, some needles. I woke up to my eyes being closed and hearing ringing in my ears. And before I even opened my eyes, like in my brain started to like process what happened. I was like, fuck, we just got hit. And as the ringing started to die out and I could hear the screams from the guys that were there around me, I was like, shit, how can I get these guys to shut the fuck up without giving away my position? Because, again, I was afraid of what was coming next, which was small arm fire, whatever the case may be. And at that time, dude, all I could see was pitch black. So I, like, lifted my hand up, and there was this piece of concrete just covering my body completely. So I pushed it up as far as I could, and I don't even know how I did it. It must have been because I was in shock and got, like, the super adrenaline strength. But I pushed this piece of center block concrete that was just highway overpass. It's on my body, pushed it up as far as I could, and then kind of like worked my way out of it and pushed it until it like fully stood on my left ankle. And after I gave it like its last final push, it thudded and fell over, and a bunch of like dust and sand like flew up in the air. And I sat up and I could hear guys screaming, you know, and I'm like, fuck. And I'm spitting blood. I got grime all over my teeth. Completely change of scenario. Everything was bright, sunny, beautiful, you know, as it can be, I guess, where the situation that we're in, to like complete destruction. You know what I mean? The bridge, I could see it. I was laying on my back. I could see the bridge collapsed. There was pieces of concrete. I think there was a car that was on fire. I could feel the heat off of that. I was spitting grime and dirt. And then I sat up. Flak, gone. Kevlar, gone. freaking first aid kit because that's the first thing I was looking for. Gone, weapon gone, radio. I had no idea where it was at. It's like they took me out of this situation and threw me like 80 to 100 feet underwater, and I was just in a completely different world.
Wow.
So I sit up, and I'm like, damn, I could hear the screaming guys crying, like, what the fuck happened? Like, what the fuck? And I'm like, oh, fuck, dude, like, be quiet, man. Like, don't give away the position. How can I get them to shut up?
I think they knew where you were.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny what you think, though, at the time. They're like, y'all be quiet. They might find us.
Yeah. Well, the thing is like, I was scared of somebody, like, just coming over us and then finishing us off. You know what I mean? Like, just popping us off.
Because you're defenseless at the moment.
Completely, bro. Completely. I had no kind of way of defending myself at all anymore. And I look down and my leg, my boot is at, like, an L-shaped like, at my hip. Like, back here.
Your femur is broke?
No, like my foot was foot by my hip, backwards, like in an L shape. Like it was like this.
Damn.
So I'm looking at my boot on my right side, and I can see blood gushing out of my leg. And then my left hand, I couldn't move it at all. So I was like, fuck, I'm limited. I'm spitting, grime and teeth, and like something keeps popping me. Every time I spit was like hitting the bottom of like my cheekbone. And then like I could see it like slide down. And then I kind of like would slush around some of the blood and spit it back out, and bam, it would hit me again. I'm like, what the fuck is that? It was my lip. My lip was dangling off. So every time I would spit, I'd pop it up and it would hit me in the face. And then after the gravity or whatever, it would slowly like slide back down. So again, no first aid kit, no nothing. I grab my leg with my right hand and I start to squeeze my thigh just to kind of like slow down the blood from bleeding out. And I literally laid back down and I'm like, damn, what am I going to do? And I'm looking up at the bridge and I see a Marine like at the top, maybe like 20, 25 feet away from me. And he's like running down the rubble and jumping down, like making his way down the debris. And I'm focusing on him. I'm like, who the fuck is that? And I look, and as he gets closer into focus, it was Buxton from Weapons Platoon. So I was like, perfect. I was like, QRF is here. Yeah. Like, now I know backup is here, and I did all that I could do. I really don't need to, like...
I can scream now.
Yeah, I can cry. So I leaned back, and I looked up at the sky, and I was like, God, like, this is on you. Like, I can't do anything anymore. I said, this is all in your hands. And I closed my eyes, and I blacked out. And then from there, it's just kind of like a like fuzz of just scenes that kind of open and close. From that Friday until Sunday, I woke up in launch tool, and there was bits and pieces along the way. Like, I don't remember getting medevaced out. I don't remember ever standing up and reporting my post to the CO when he arrived. I don't remember the helo ride into Balad or Baghdad. I don't remember being on the surgery table, but they took the rest of my leg. I woke up in one of those two places, and like 2 days prior, we had gotten hit by another suicide bomber, but it was like closer to the Iraqi police station, and we had a squad of guys there. Well, they had got sent to Balad or Baghdad to get screened because they blacked out. And one of those guys was there, Hitch. I don't know if you remember Hitch.
Yeah.
Hitch was there that evening, and I came to, and one of my junior Marines that ended up saving our lives was pushing me in a wheelchair. And I had my left arm in a splint. My face was mangled. My left arm was amputated. They had me wrapped up. And Hitch looks at me and he's like, Morante, is that you? And I look up at him. I'm like, yeah, bro, it's me. He goes, damn, what the fuck happened? I go, we got hit pretty goddamn good. That's what happened.
They found us.
Yeah, they knew where we were at. So he, like, I could just see his face just drop. I just remember the expression on his face. And I asked him for a cigarette. I was like, dude, do you happen to have a cigarette? And he's like, yeah, bro, I got one. And I remember it so vaguely because it disgusted me so much. Like, he pulled out a menthol cigarette and gave it to me, and I took like one drag, and because of, I guess, the medication and everything, I really didn't like smoking anyways, but menthols were the worst. Mm-hmm. I took one drag of that, and I was like, ugh! I was like, fuck this cigarette, and I threw it away, and I really never smoked ever since, I never smoked a cigarette.
I'm not trying to brush my teeth while I smoke a cigarette.
Yeah, exactly. So that happened, and then I blacked back out, and then I woke up like 2 days later in Germany in launch tool, and that's when I woke up and realized, like, when the pain finally started to kick in.
Yeah.
But I was more worried about my guys. So Doc was in ICU. Little Mendez, who was clowning around about the bottle, lost his hand from the elbow down. Big Mendez, which, you know, Johnny, was a partial on that deployment too. He only had like, dude, I think he was weeks away from getting pulled out and getting sent back home.
Yeah.
And he got his leg taken below the knee on that. He was on the bridge with us. There was 8 of us, and 6 of us got medevaced out of Iraq. And Mariquin, the guy that was pushing me in the wheelchair, I don't know how, but he found a pyro in the midst of all that stuff and was able to pop it right before he passed out and fell. And that's why they sent QRF, because QRF wasn't even going to come because they thought everybody was dead. They're like, we're not going to send out QRF to go get exposed, to get shot up or whatever from small arms fire or sniper afterwards. So they weren't even going to send anybody until there was like proof of life. And Mariquin somehow like happened to find it in the midst of all that. And as soon as he popped it, he like did a half circle and then collapsed. And then later on that night or whatever is like pushing me in the wheelchair.
Another excellent leadership decision there.
Yeah.
Nah, they're probably all dead.
Well, again, I was told by Hernandez, because he was QRF at the time, that they were told to stand down for like 45 minutes until the smoke and everything cleared, and if there was any kind of like proof. But I don't know after that, like I don't know how long it was that we were out there.
That's when you tell people to go fuck themselves.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that happened. That actually happened because the guys that were out on missions and patrols ended up running to the bridge.
If you're scared to do your job, just step aside.
Yeah.
Don't stop everybody else.
Yeah. So that was the weird thing about it. And then again, I don't know if the chaplains like had turned around or picked up guys and brought them back to us, or what happened, because from there it was, like I said, it was all a blur. And all I picked up since then are pieces of the puzzles of the guys that were there. Like my other fire team that was on the base, they ended up being security team for the LZ for us to get medevac. So when they the last time they saw us, we were getting dragged on gurneys, cots, like whatever they could find to get us out of there. And they started working on Doc inside of the BAH in Fob Black. Like everybody came into the kitchen. It was a total fucking mess in there.
Yeah.
Trying to get him stabilized and bringing him back, because I think a couple of people worked on Doc again, because he was like in the worst situation. And I was told that my leg was like dangling off of the cot, and I was yelling at some guys like, "Hey, dude, watch my fucking leg," you know what I mean, or whatever. So I don't remember that part either. Like I said, it was just kind of glimpses, but the stories and the reunions that we've had since then, we've gotten to kind of close that puzzle from everybody's point of view.
Man, talk to me a little bit about how you have managed that, how you've worked with it, worked through it to get to where you are now.
Dude, like I really put a lot of faith in God. Like God has everything that has happened to me is because of His like control. Everything happens for a reason. I'm a big believer of that. And again, I could have left. I could have been in the stateside or in a plane somewhere or whatever. That was bound to happen to me. You know what I mean? And it was bound to happen to the squad. And it just so happened the way that it happened because He's orchestrating that. And I used to always tell everybody, hey, God only gives you what He knows you can handle. And if this would have happened to like any one of my other siblings or anything like that, I don't think they would have had the same outcome. But it took me a while. I'm not going to lie, man. It took me a while. I went through like, initially, I was grateful to be alive. And I was like, I'm breathing air, like oxygen. Oh my God, I'm alive. I don't care. Like my guys are alive. Everybody made it alive. Like I'm so happy and grateful, you know, and it's like, I'm still here. You know, like nobody at home, like, oh man, imagine the mess that created once they got the phone call. Yeah. My brother freaked out because they didn't give him the right intel. They didn't know. They told them that I had gotten hit by a sniper and I got shot in the head. And they didn't know, like, you know, that if I was unconscious, if I was brain dead, if I was this. So that's the word that they got. And they're like, he's in critical condition. You know, we'll call you guys back and give you an update whenever we can. So I had just picked, and it's funny because I had switched my mom out of being the person of contact in case of an emergency to my brother. If they would have talked to my mom, dude, my mom probably would have died of a heart attack right then and there.
Yeah.
But because they, you know, I switched out, the news came to my brother, and then my brother had to break the news to my mom. And then from there, it was just a big, you know, show. Everybody in the neighborhood got together, hometown churches, everybody was praying. And again, I was so like happy just to be breathing oxygen after knowing what happened. And then it was more focused on the guys. Like I was there that week in launch stool with them, and I had to be strong for them. So they were making me strong by like dealing through the pain. And then we get medevaced out of launch stool. I get sent to Bethesda Naval Hospital. Doc goes to Jersey for a brain and spinal cord like unit, specializes in that. May, John Mendez, and Volk get sent out to Balboa in San Diego. And then me and Little Mendez were in Bethesda for several months. And then after that, they shipped me down because they were either going to keep me at Walter Reed or they were going to send me to San Antonio to the Center for the Intrepid because of the amputation. So because Walter Reed was like packed at that time, they gave me the option to go back to Texas. And I was like, dude, bring my ass home.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I went to San Antonio, and then I got there maybe like June of 2007, and then started my rehab and therapy there, which took another 3.5 years.
Wow.
Before they retired me.
Do you talk to these guys very often? Do y'all have
not as often as I'd like to, but we still keep connected, man. I still talk to like Larson and some of the guys from the 2005 deployment, the December 1st stuff. I talked to Gray. I just got off of the phone with Carr. I talk to Hot Rod probably like every 2 weeks. Little Mendez, I just got off of the phone. Some of the guys are hard to get a hold of. And then again, life after military life happens, bro. Everybody's got kids, get married, trying to like buy a house, buy a homestead.
Try to move on.
Well, it's trying to survive and be independent.
Yeah.
You know,
it's hard.
A lot of the stuff is crazy, man. The world's so backwards today. You know, so like even some of the guys that I talked to, like, dude, we should just buy like 20 acres of land.
That's everybody's dream, isn't it?
Exactly. Like we've talked about that since we were in, and again, some people are actually doing it.
Yeah.
And they're being self-sufficient, and it's not like they're completely off the map, but they're not being so reliable on our government to take care of us or provide for us.
Or poison us.
Yeah. Yeah, like, you know, like you did that whole Lone Survivor Naked and Afraid thing, and I was like, dude, that's pretty badass. You know, but that's an example of like some of our guys need to like get that green light. Like, dude, like don't just depend on going into a store and buying fruit whenever you want to.
Yeah, you better have a plan.
Have a plan B, have a plan C, like learn how to...
And test it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what that was. That was the test.
Yeah, like that little sandal thing that you made on that deal. I was like, fuck, I gotta get some of those.
I gotta weave some fucking sandals.
Yeah, man. So, you know, a lot of hunting and fishing and stuff like that. I like doing that just because I grew up doing it here in Texas, and it's been part of like, you know, my pastime, and I like going out there and just being part of the quiet.
Yeah, we've been talking. You do some dove hunting here pretty soon, yeah.
Coming up, man. It's coming up around the corner. It's been a while since I've actually been able to go on a dove hunt, but I have been doing a lot of like recipes and kind of playing with some stuff. I had some of the guys that went out last year. They brought me back some doves, and I traded some stag and some other things.
Do you work as a chef now?
No.
Were you doing that for a while?
I'm just a good house husband now. I went to culinary school for...
You did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I thought you were a chef for a while, and then you were a boxer for a while. Yeah. Like you've kept yourself super busy.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. Like everything happened for a reason. It's all been, you know, God's glory. But I went to culinary school because I've always wanted to become a chef and have my own restaurant. We talked about it in the core days. A couple of guys opening up, you know, a couple of restaurants here and there. Or,
what do you like to cook? Do you have a genre?
Everything, bro. I went to AI, which is the Art Institute, so it's an international cooking school. Okay. You learn a little bit of everything. You don't just hit one region; you hit it all. So I like mixing stuff up here and there. And I had a catering company back in like 2010, 2011, and I was doing catering jobs, like on-site, on-premise catering. And I would do weddings, quinceañeras, retirement ceremonies, stuff like that. And I would just set up shop. I could feed up to like 300 people.
Wow.
You know, I've done fundraisers, golf tournaments, all kinds of stuff. Just provided breakfast or did a luncheon deal or buffet style or whatever. And I was doing that. But again, I've always been a fighter, bro. I've been fighting since I was a kid. And, my dad bought me my first pair of gloves when I was 5, and I was knocking out my older brother's tooth. You know what I mean? So everywhere I would go with my dad, it's like I always seemed to get into a fight with somebody. Well, some of his friends, like kids.
Yeah.
And they were older than me, and I was short and stocky or whatever. And dude, I was like beating up 13-year-olds at the age
That's
of,
my kid right now.
Yeah,
he's like
that's why I love
McGregor.
watching your kid, because he's a wild man,
He
dude.
is. We went to a friend's house yesterday, and they had a little boy who's a little bit younger than my boy is. And he looks at Mattis, and he's like, "Do you want to fight?" And you could just see his face light up. And my wife, "No." He's like, "There's no choking. There's no kicking."
Eye gouging.
Yeah.
No
He's just
fish
like,
hook.
and you could just see his face like,
Well,
what are we going to do?
What are you going to do? Give him a high five?
He loves to just wrestle and fight. Now
Yeah.
I'm excited to get him into jujitsu as soon as he reaches that age. But
Yeah.
so you did some semi-pro boxing. Did
No,
you get was
not
there
at
a
all.
league you were a
Not
part
at all.
of?
Well,
'Cause you were training heavy.
So I lost my leg at the age of 22. And a lot of my therapy came from the boxing gym.
Okay.
So because I was like at the Center for the Intrepid, which is an amazing facility, millions and millions of dollars are put into that place, high-tech stuff. But to me, I felt like a lab rat. You know what I mean? It's like, if you ever seen Rocky IV?
Yeah.
Drago's like got all the high-tech stuff, and he's being monitored and stuff like that. Like, that's what the environment that I was in, which is all high-tech things. But to me, I'd get motivated out of going into a stinky, sweaty gym that had a bunch of bags hanging, that had a bunch of able-bodied boxers that are going in there that have been through a struggle, and they're taking it out right there in the ring. They're taking it out on that bag.
Is that what that did for you?
Yeah, man. It brought me back to like being somewhat normal again, or being, in my past, because I kind of like went in there and my coach saw me and he was like, "Dude, what the fuck happened to you?" I said, "Man, we got hit by a bomb and I lost my leg and this and that." And he was like, "Damn, dude, that sucks." And I was like, "I know, but can I still train here?" And he's like, "You still want to train?" I was like, "I kind of want to get back into it just to see how good I can, stand up and."
I remember you had a match that you were rejected for to fight in. That you qualified. You met the weight. You
paid the membership. I made the weight. I did the training.
And they said no.
At an hour prior to me stepping into that ring and facing an able-bodied opponent for Golden Gloves in San Antonio, I was told to stand down again. And this was, I think I was like maybe like 30, 32, 33 at the time. So since the age of 22, I had been trying to get back in the ring for several years. And everywhere that I went, nobody would allow an amputee to box an able-bodied fighter. So right before...
Did you just try identifying as an able-bodied fighter?
Well, again...
I'm kidding.
You take the picture, and the picture's from the chest up, so you submit it online. Yeah. They send you the book.
Well, these days you could just...
Yeah, well, I mean,
I was born with this plastic leg.
No kidding. I mean, if my genital area had gotten blown off, would I qualify into the women's league and compete with the women fighter that are out there in their league? It's crazy, man. Like I said, this world is all backwards right now.
I remember seeing that, and I was so pissed about that.
Yeah, bro, it went crazy. But now, again, because we started our own league here in Texas, and we were bringing amputees from across the nation, and we even brought some people from outside of the U.S. to come in here and fight.
It's like a boxing league for people
for
that
amputees. Yeah, like a league of our own. We were competing, and we ran that for about 5 years straight.
Is it all leg amputees or also arm?
That point, yes. At that point, yes.
You hit me with a plastic hand. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. Well, think about Terminator. Somebody's got a Terminator arm, and they're hitting you like Rock'em Sock'em robots. But we've had adaptive boxing has grown outside of the U.S.
That's
drastically.
what it's called, adaptive boxing.
Adaptive boxing. Wow. They have guys in wheelchairs doing competition. They have guys with missing. I mean, you see MMA fighters. You see. Kickboxing, there are guys missing hands, and they're putting a glove on wherever their arm is left over, and dudes are getting kicked and getting rocked by nubs, man. And with us, it was just stand-up boxing.
Okay.
So, I've had a couple of guys that try to do the whole MMA thing, and they were like, okay, you can compete, but you got to wrap your leg up, and you can't kick anybody with that leg. So, which is, totally cool because a lot of that stuff is on the ground anyways.
It's true.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and stuff like that. So
there.
it's more of the technique of it. With the stand-up boxing, to me, I felt not an advantage, but I felt like the leg you'd get a lot more technique from using your prosthetic leg inside the ring.
Oh.
And the reason why is because you're using boxing is all movement and the way you plant before you throw a punch. So the prosthetic leg was getting worked by whatever left of your limb you have left over. So your leg is getting an actual workout.
So do you think that it's possible they didn't allow you to compete because you had the advantage and not the disadvantage?
No, it's a double whammy on that one because they were making excuses on both ends. Like, what able-bodied fighter wants to go in
and get beat by a guy without a leg?
By a guy with one leg. And then, you're on that end and you're like, well, you fought a guy with one leg. Or you're like, well, you
either beat up the guy with one leg and nobody gives a shit, or you got beat up by the guy with one leg and you're a total bitch.
Yeah, but it's not like that. It was crazy the way they categorized it. But again, like, for our matches, we were doing up to 5 rounds at 2 minutes each round. So it's amateur. And again, our league was an amateur league. No one's gotten pro. No one's ever been pro. They haven't allowed it so far.
Just dudes having a good time.
Yeah.
Training,
and you know what? Like, a lot of that camaraderie happened right there in the gym. Like, those 6 months training. Like, the guy that I fought on our first ever amputee was an Army buddy of mine that we did therapy together and we trained in the gym together. And when they called us to come to the fight, they're like, who are the next 2 fighters? And we were side by side watching the previous fights. And they're like, dude, you guys are fighting each other? And we're like, yeah. Shouldn't you guys be on like different ends and like hate each other? And I was like, dude, this is the professionalism behind it. Like, we don't hate each other. We're not in here trying to kill each other. We're going to go in and showcase what we can do. And this is something that like makes us feel alive. And
I think avoiding isolation is one of the most important things that you can do. You lose that tribe when you get out of the military, but you got to find another one. And it's got to be men that you respect and that you're proud to be among.
Right.
And otherwise it doesn't work.
Yep.
And guys, it's hard. It's hard to make friends as an adult, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to make friends as a parent or as a working person because you don't have time. You're not in a barracks all day dealing with people, eating together, training together. You get thrown into civilian life and, you get whatever job you've got and try to relate to those people after having that experience.
Yeah, it's difficult to come back down off of that high, you can say. But
that bar has been set at the age of 22 in an experience and a responsibility level and a purpose level and a tribal level. Like, you have brothers that you've never met all across the world, and now it's all taken away.
That's when I struggled the most, bro, is whenever I got sent over to San Antonio and I was by myself.
Yeah.
And I don't mean by myself like, family-wise or anything like that. I meant like all my guys were in different areas. And then I got here and I was like, okay, well, I'm Corporal Morante, 3 years of experience, Iraq. Like, do I have a squad? Do I have a fire team? They're like, nope. Your job is to like take care of yourself.
To rehab.
Yeah. And I was like, well, how do I do that without my guys pushing me? Like, or me like setting that example and pushing myself towards the guys. And for like 8-9 months, bro, I fell into a freaking hole and had to climb myself out of it. Dig down deep or whatever and pull myself out. But
was there
in the wild, and for that time frame, I was in a lot of murky water, bro.
Was there anything specific that you remember helped you climb out of that?
My son being born.
Yeah.
Yep. Kids, man. Kids. I love kids. I love teaching kids. I love training with kids. I love seeing kids like excel and succeed. And I've just got a real heart towards children, man. They need to be raised and seeing heroes and seeing good role models and seeing, you know what I mean? That's what kind of like keeps the generational thing continuance. Like,
life's hard.
It's hard, dude. It's hard. And again, like, we took a little bit of like the shit end of the stick or whatever, but the generations prior to us had it a lot worse. So what are we bitching about?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What's the next generation bitching about because their Wi-Fi fucking got cut off? Like, we were still writing letters on our first deployment.
Oh yeah, dude.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. It's a 2-week turnaround for letters.
And,
we didn't have,
like stuff like that is just like they don't understand because nobody emphasizes it. Nobody teaches them. Nobody, like, it's just like, hey, just watch YouTube.
I think they get their phones in boot camp.
I don't know what's going on in boot camp nowadays, dude. It's so watered down, but like I said, it's that's what's going on. It's that everything is so watered down now that you can't tell the difference from actual water to fucking, fake water. Everything's all, like I said, just kind of like softened up so much, and they're keeping your attention on something that's a distraction instead of, learning what I said, you know what I mean? Like teaching your kids how to survive, teaching your kids how to do this, teaching your kids the fundamentals.
I'm going to Dallas next week or 10 days from now to help a guy with a homeschool group and do a overnight wilderness survival class.
That's killer.
And I'm going to, I guess, teach them how to make those sandals that I made and how to make a fire and like a kind of a hasty shelter. And we're just going to sleep on the ground in the field for a night and just give them an idea of that experience.
Yep.
And hey, if you do get lost in the woods ever, this is kind of the basics of what you need to get yourself out and to at least hold your own until somebody can find you or give them a plan.
Right.
And I don't know what story it was. The guy that is helping me with it said that there was like a child, like a 3-year-old or something, that had gotten lost in the woods for like, I don't know, a week or two, or maybe it was like a month. I don't know. But he had survived it and had, found water and found shelter and hung out until he, somebody found him, which is, I can't imagine, like my 3-year-old's gone for a week in the woods. You're just like, oh, this is a recovery.
Dude, my nephew at the age of 5 had a full-blown 410 pump action shotgun, and he was jumping on a 4-wheeler into the woods and coming back with dead rabbits.
Dude, kids are so much more capable than we give them credit for. It's this, my kid just needs to be a kid, so he just plays his iPad and he doesn't do anything. And I'm like, no, bro. It's 6 a.m. We got to check chickens and goats. Get your ass up.
Yeah.
We got work to do. You can watch your show, your whatever, when the work is done.
That's
It's great in the summertime because it's hot as balls by noon.
Yep.
So I'm like, we get the work done. He's out there helping me with fences. He's helping me. Like as he gets all, and he complains. Like he's like, Dad, it's so hot right now.
Of course.
Like go dunk your head in the horse trough and shut your mouth. Like come back. It's like,
awesome.
This is so gross.
Yeah, I had my kid for summer vacation and we did the same thing, bro. We were doing landscaping,
pivotal.
doing stuff at like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and then by like 9:30, shut it down because it's 105 outside.
Yeah.
Let's continue back up at 7, 8:30 o'clock at night, and like in between time frame, we're finding stuff to do on the inside to keep cool and rehydrating and teaching them about that nutrition and fueling your body, and then going back out there and knocking it out, dude. I've had a couple of guys that had some heat strokes here recently. And they're well into their 30s and 40s, but because you were out there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, sun beaming on you, and you're trying to plant like trees,
you gotta be
and just
smart
being
about
stubborn about it, like, oh, well, I'm a Marine.
That
Like, no, dude,
work.
push that stuff out of the way. Like, we're not 20 anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I had a frank conversation with him about, like, this is what it is to work. When Daddy goes places, he's working. And if I don't teach you how to work, you're not going to learn. It's just like throwing the football. We practice, right? Because he's in flag football now. It's like we practice so you can get good at it. You have to practice how to work. And if you can do it, you can have anything you want in this life.
Yep.
And that seemed to resonate. He was like, huh. It's like anything you want.
Yeah.
If you just learn to work. And he's like, all right.
That's good because he's still young that you're instilling that into him. And
I'm trying.
COVID kind of like took out a lot of the majority of the people that, didn't know how to survive.
It woke a lot of people up.
Yeah.
It woke a lot of people up. I work at a ranch and we teach long-range shooting and hunting and tracking and the necropsy, all the like how to cape it, how to quarter it. They teach them to make sausage in the kitchen. It is field to fork, the whole shebang. And that blew up after COVID because a lot of people were just scared. It's like, I actually don't have a clue out of what to do. Like I could maybe go shoot something with my gun, but
from there, how do I store it?
Where am I supposed to do?
How do I keep it?
Right? Like, I think I'm supposed to cut off the skin, and I know that there's food inside.
What's good to eat right now? What do I avoid? What do I cut? What do I don't touch?
Yeah, man, it's woke a lot of people up.
Yeah, but like I said, that's that generational part where we kind of need to bridge those gaps from the people that were prior to us that used to jar everything and have a storage unit where they would jar everything and make it on their own.
Yeah, everybody's
to where like the
that.
McDonald's generation where we're just going to go and grab a drive-through real quick and then just survive off of that. Like, okay, so what happens when that place shuts down? Yeah. What happens when the phones get cut off? Are you going to use your GPS, Siri or whatever maps, or are you going to pull out your compass and be like, oh, I know where I'm at? Because
it's funny how many of the military types or the former service members, having been so closely ingrained in government, recognize that issue and are trying to do it on their own. They're like, I don't want your help. You're just going to fuck up everything you touch. Just leave me alone, and I will take care of myself.
Yep. Take care of your own, take care of your family, and take care of your close ones to you, man. That's pretty much all we can try to do.
And find a tribe. Yeah. Find your brothers. It doesn't have to be the guys you served with. Something that tests you and challenges you, and put yourself around some men that you want to be around.
Right. Something you can learn off of.
Let them call you on your shit so you don't become a tyrant.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree upon that, man.
Anything else you want to share about?
Yeah. So at the end of September, there's actually going to be a big event out here, bro. Have you ever heard of Camp Mayberry?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's going to be an event there on the 30th of September, and we might have some adaptive boxing.
Really?
On that day. And it's going to be huge, man. They're going to have, I think, maybe like 15 fights.
Nice.
Open to the public. They're going to have a flyover. The guard's going to be there. Like, everybody's activated that weekend. So there's going to be a huge, get-together. And they're going to set up a ring. And we'll probably see if I can get a below-the-knee amputee, 14-year-old kid from Chicago, to come down to see if we can throw him in the ring. Because he's training right now, hardcore. Yeah. And
I'll check my schedule at the ranch, and if I'm home, I'm there.
Yeah,
that sounds cool.
I don't know where Camp Mayberry's at, but
right down the road.
Is it really?
Yep, it ain't far.
So that's why I kind of took advantage of this deal. Yeah, it's going to be September 30th. I've got the flyer. I'll send it to you. Maybe you guys can put it out there.
Hell yeah!
But it'll be September 30th, and we're trying to see if maybe.
Are you going to fight?
We'll see. We'll see what happens,
dude,
man.
That'd be cool as fuck.
Yeah, I've got to sit down with the commission and talk to them, and then we're trying to get Mr. Abbott to come out because we are trying to see if we can maybe get a wheelchair match in there.
Okay.
And it'd be cool because he's in a wheelchair.
See if the governor will box.
That'd be cool to do a little sparring session or whatever, one-on-one.
Who gets to punch the governor?
Yeah, we'll see how far we can take that. But again, we got to do some logistics stuff and kind of do some
it ought
kinks.
to at least kind of, speak to him because he has a perspective on that.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get disabled sports to kind of adopt and open up the games and let every kid and everybody out there know that, whether your school doesn't do it or your area doesn't do it, there are a lot of sports, disabled sports, that you can join, and there's so many things you can sign up for. I've done a little bit of everything. I trained at the Training Olympic Center doing bobsledding.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, who would ever thought fucking, my brown ass would be on a bobsled. It's cool.
Was that
cool
fucking
runnings.
Awesome, or were you like...
It was an experience, man. It's pretty cool. Yeah. It really was. I was out there in Lake Placid.
80 miles an hour in an ice go-kart.
Man, it is cool until you wipe out. And then you flip over, but it was a cool little ride, man. I did some training out there, and, there's just so many different sports out there that, like I said... don't think of it as a disability to slow you down or stop you. Just think about it as a different angle I got to come at it.
Sure, man.
And that's all it is. Like I said, you just keep your faith on God. Let God guide you. Put your faith into Him, and He'll provide a way, just like He did for me and everybody else that lives on this planet.
I love it, man. Thank you.
Good show.
It was awesome. Appreciate it.
Rah. Pretty cool, man.